I am alive, and it's good to be alive. I am reviewing Inaros right now because he is badass. He is the very first Warframe to be introduced to the game that doesn't have an energy shields bar. He only has health. But the good news is he has a ton of it. As you can see up in the top right, I have 4,500 health, which is quite a lot. So let's get into his powers. His first power, I like to call it pocket sand. It's not really called pocket sand. I just think it's funny that you throw sand at people's eyes. I mean, look at him. That looks horrible. He's like, oh god, why would you do that? This is really cool because the damage that enemies take over time actually heals you. And on top of it healing you, it also leaves enemies open to finisher melee attacks, as you'll see here. And a really cool passive that Inaros has is when you deal a melee finisher, it heals you for a very large portion of your health. So this is awesome for not only crowd control, but also for dealing a ton of damage to maybe stubborn targets that you're having a hard time taking out, and it heals you in the process. It's a great ability. Inaros' second ability is really cool. You essentially shoot out this kind of like strand of energy, and you pull people towards you, and once they get to you, you will proceed to drain their health and absorb it for yourself. On top of that, if you kill them with said ability, they become a sand clone and fight for you, which is really cool. And Inaros' third ability is pretty funny. It is a sandstorm, and you essentially just ragdoll enemies while dealing damage to them over time. Whee! And you'll just send everybody flying. It looks like fun, right? And quite possibly, Inaros' coolest ability is his ultimate, which will drain your health, but if you look at the top right, you'll see a percentage meter fill up, which is now at 100%. This basically amps your armor. This depends, honestly, on your power strength, so it's not going to be the same for everybody, but basically once you reach 100%, you have reached the maximum benefit that you can receive. This essentially gives you an extra buff of armor, so making your health bar really hard to take down. And what's awesome is that if you activate the ability again instead of charging it, find an enemy here, you actually shoot a projectile that disintegrates enemies, kind of eats them up, and will heal nearby allies around it. So it's really nice. It's not super effective at healing allies, and what I mean by that is not to say it doesn't heal very much, but rather it's just kind of complicated because if you don't have very good power range, you're going to have a hard time healing your teammates with this. But it does spread to enemies, which is cool. Having a hard time showing you on these guys because they're so freaking weak, but basically if it doesn't kill the enemy right away and other enemies approach close to them, it'll actually spread to more targets. So depending on how like productive you are with this power and how wisely you use it, you can actually get it to spread to quite a few people. So Inaros is pretty damn tanky, and he's got great survivability. I would say one of the only downsides to him is that he doesn't really have any heavily damaging powers. Maybe if you modded specifically for nothing but power strength, you could get them to deal a good amount of damage, but I still wouldn't perk for that, to be honest, if I were you guys. I think it's cool too that you can heal your team with him because he's not only a tank frame, but you can also support your allies a little bit with that ability. So I think that's really great. He's not my favorite frame, nor is he my favorite tank. I still think other frames like Chroma kind of do a better job, not because they are just better in general, but just because of their playstyle. I really prefer them because Chroma gets super tanky, but he also greatly buffs your damage when you're tanking as him. So it's just a little more my style, a little more my taste. I like being able to just like amp the crap out of my weapon's damage. I really enjoy that. And then if I can allow the enemies to down me, oh god, that's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. They're too weak. Well, we'll be here all day. Anyways, Inaros has another really cool passive where if he dies or goes down, so to speak, you don't go into the normal crawling animation. You actually wrap yourself in a really cool looking kind of sarcophagus, and you can essentially shoot a focused beam out of the sarcophagus wherever you're aiming, and you can leech either nearby allies or enemies. And if you fill your leech meter, you can actually self-resurrect yourself. This is really nice. It's not terribly helpful most of the time unless you're fighting melee enemies, because if you're fighting enemies with guns and you have other people in your squad, more than likely when the enemies kill you, they're going to immediately leave the room that you're in to go fight your teammates, so it gets really hard to leech off of them like that. But on single player it might be helpful, I don't know. I usually don't die all that much as Inaros. If you want to get Inaros, he's really not that hard to get. It's just you're going to want to farm prime parts, and you sell your prime parts to the Void Trader, who comes every other weekend to Warframe. He'll visit a relay, and you basically buy the quest blueprint, the Sands of Inaros, from the Void Trader, and you can get him just for completing the quest. You get all of his pieces. It is a lengthy quest, though, and does take quite a bit of work, so once you pick up the quest, I wouldn't have your heart dead set on getting Inaros that day. And if you're comparing Nidus to Inaros, because both of them are the only frames in the game to only have a health bar, Nidus has way better health regen. He regenerates like close to 5 health a second, probably 6 or 7 if you put a rejuvenation aura mod on him. I think Inaros is a bit more tanky and is really good at suppressing enemies, but Nidus all the way has better offense and damage. He can kill enemies much easier and at much higher levels. The only thing Inaros really has going for him, as far as offense is concerned, is that you can stun enemies, leaving them open to melee finishers, so that's a huge help with damage. Anyways, you guys, I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you have a kick-ass day. I will see you in the next one. Peace!